Welcome back to the Stephen A. Smith Show. Before I get on out of here, I had to talk about a story that's very, very important. And albeit indirectly, it involves...
Stephen A. Smith just said the quiet part out loud, and the WNBA is not going to like what he had to say. The rumors have been circulating for nearly 2 years. We have heard stories of hostility, jealousy, and even an intentional effort to keep the biggest female athlete from competing. But the newest developments involving Nike, Travis Scott, and the Kelsey brothers have completely changed the picture of professional basketball. Stephen A. Smith did more than defend the Indiana Fever star this morning. He confirmed what many people were too afraid to say publicly. Today, Sophie and Caitlin Clark are no longer simply basketball players. No amount of public relations can easily close the growing gap between them and the rest of the league because they have become a global economic force. If you believed the original $28 million contract was the biggest part of the story, you were mistaken. That was only one small piece of a much larger business plan. We are now watching a financial shift that could seriously disrupt the already fragile WNBA ecosystem. Stephen A. Smith basically declared, "I told you so." To understand why this week's news has created so much attention, we have to go back to the event that started everything. The Christmas Day commercial that exploded across the internet revealed what appeared to be deeper tension inside the WNBA. While families were exchanging gifts and watching the NBA schedule 3 days ago, Nike released a campaign that made the rest of the WNBA look almost like a local recreational league. They introduced the From Anywhere commercial, a major cinematic advertising campaign created to promote her upcoming signature shoe, the Caitlin Ones, which will debut in the spring of 2026. Before we continue, please do me a favor. If you enjoy this video, please subscribe. It's free, takes only a second, and it helps the channel. And if you're already subscribed, thank you. I truly appreciate it. But the details here are important. Look carefully at the people featured in that advertisement. They were not her WNBA teammates. Women's basketball legends like Sheryl Swoopes and Diana Taurasi were not part of the campaign. Instead, rapper Travis Scott appeared alongside the Kelsey brothers. Nike deliberately stepped outside the WNBA world and connected her to global pop culture. The company made a clear and calculated choice to place Sophie and Caitlin Clark beside major cultural figures. According to Stephen A. Smith, that was not an accident.
It was a statement.
It was sending one very clear message. WNBA approval is no longer necessary for Caitlin Clark and Sophie. They have already moved beyond the league before their second season has even reached its full potential. And according to Stephen A., this particular commercial represents the worst possible situation for an aging guard in the WNBA. They expected her to pay her dues. She was supposed to wait for her opportunity. Instead, Nike ignored those expectations and essentially handed her the keys to the kingdom. But because the jealousy appears to be connected to money, we need to examine the numbers to understand the seriousness of what Stephen A. Smith is saying. When news of her original 8-year contract became public, tension was already building inside league locker rooms. Players who had spent 10 years working their way through the league suddenly had to watch a rookie earn more through endorsements than entire teams had available on their payrolls. But according to new information from Nike headquarters, the original $28 million estimate may have been extremely conservative. During the first 3 years, the Caitlin Clark signature shoe line alone could generate $150 million, according to insiders. Think about what that means. If you enjoy this content, please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel. It may surprise you to learn that nearly 83% of viewers still have not subscribed. It takes only a second, it is completely free, and it means so much to us. Already subscribed? Fantastic. I genuinely appreciate your support. Now, let's get back to the story. $150 million. The average WNBA player earns around $76,000 per year. The maximum compensation remains below $250,000. Stephen A. Smith argues that this enormous financial gap sits at the center of the conflict we are seeing on the court. This is no longer only about basketball. It is about a rookie generating more money than many players might ever see from a single sneaker release. Stephen A. Smith also argues that human nature cannot simply be ignored. You cannot create this level of economic inequality inside a highly competitive locker room without creating resentment and frustration. At this point, Stephen A. Smith enters the conversation with perhaps his strongest confirmation yet. He went on record this week and pushed his controversial argument about envy even further, making it clear that after this commercial aired, the hostility toward Caitlin Clark and Sophie could increase dramatically. His reasoning is simple but harsh. The women who helped build this league, along with veterans who traveled on commercial flights and played in nearly empty gyms, can feel forgotten. They believe they worked for years only to watch a rookie arrive and receive the Michael Jordan treatment. Smith warns that the physical fouls, hard checks, and attempts to freeze her out from the previous season may have been only the beginning. Now that she is officially the face of Nike basketball, regardless of gender, the target on her back has grown tenfold. We also have to understand Nike's aggressive approach. Nike is not a non-profit organization. It is a data-driven business. The company studied the ratings. It watched jersey sales in Indianapolis. It saw the crowds stretching around the block. And it quickly recognized that Caitlin Clark is a rare athlete. While the WNBA League office tried to spread marketing money across the 12 clubs in the name of fairness and balance, Nike took a completely different approach. From the beginning, they put their investment behind the star. Stephen A. Smith has criticized the WNBA for the way it handled Caitlin Clark's arrival, arguing that the league mishandled the opportunity by trying to limit her popularity while promoting other players. That reveals what he sees as a major strategic failure by the league. The WNBA wanted to present itself as a league filled with many stars. Nike answered with a very different message. There is one megastar, and we are going to treat her that way. That difference makes the league look uncomfortable. Nike sees her as an icon, while the WNBA has treated her more like another rookie who must wait her turn. According to Stephen, this commercial proves that the WNBA has lost control of its own story. In terms of influence and reach, Caitlin Clark has grown beyond the shield. When Travis Scott publicly supports you, you no longer depend entirely on the approval of league veterans. But let's take a closer look at the jealousy argument Stephen A. Smith has been making. Remember the disputes from the past 2 years? Remember the Kennedy-Carter hip check? Remember the conflict between Rhee and Angel? Remember the controversy over being left off the basketball team? Stephen A. Smith connects all of these moments to what is happening right now. In his view, they were all signs of the same underlying problem: resentment. The basketball snub especially looks different when viewed from today's perspective. The Indiana Fever Committee decided to leave one of the most marketable athletes in the world at home because she lacked experience. Now, that same athlete is the central figure in a Nike campaign that appears bigger than the entire basketball marketing effort. Stephen A. Smith pointed out the hypocrisy in real time on television. He emphasized that while the WNBA and the basketball committee were focused on politics, corporate America was focused on winning. He saw basketball gatekeepers attempting to diminish her importance. They tried to convince her that she was not unique. And what happened instead? She became more powerful, more wealthy, and more recognizable. Meanwhile, those same gatekeepers appeared increasingly harsh and dismissive. Stephen A. Smith's confirmation is essentially a victory lap. His message is simple: I told you she was being treated unfairly, and now Nike has demonstrated why. He says that because the hardware is such an important part of the story, and because it is what fans are genuinely waiting to see, we need to talk about the shoe. With the April 2026 release of the Caitlin ones, the hype has officially reached another level. Receiving a signature sneaker is one of the rarest honors in basketball. Very few WNBA players have ever received a signature shoe. Breanna Stewart has one. Compared to Sabrina Ionescu, Caitlin Clark's debut appears to be operating on a completely different scale. Instead of treating it like another WNBA sneaker release, industry analysts are comparing the launch to the Air Jordan. They expect long lines. They expect the resale market to become extremely active. Nike's new interlocking C logo has already appeared on billboards and shirts across the nation. This logo matters because it is presenting her as a brand of her own. When you see the Jumpman, you immediately think of Jordan, not the Chicago Bulls. When you see the interlocking sea, Nike wants you to think about Sophie and Caitlin Clark rather than the WNBA or the Indiana Fever. That small difference pushes the situation even further. She is beginning to build a brand that can stand independently, no matter which league she plays in. Stephen A. Smith warns that this kind of leverage could create a serious problem for the WNBA because they need her far more than she needs them. This also brings up an issue Stephen A. Smith has never avoided: race. He has repeatedly discussed how Caitlin Clark's race influences the coverage she receives and the reaction surrounding her. He has argued that some of the resentment comes from the fact that a white athlete from Iowa is being presented as the league's savior after black women dominated the sport for 25 years. Smith believes this uncomfortable conversation needs to happen honestly. The Nike contract, which strongly supports Caitlin Clark, makes that tension even more noticeable. Even if other stars receive less attention, it can strengthen the perception of privilege. But Stephen A. pushes back by focusing on the green as well. Business is business, he argues. Caitlin Clark is filling seats. She is selling jerseys. She is producing the highest television ratings the WNBA has ever experienced. Smith says players should thank her for helping increase the potential salary cap instead of shutting her out. He argues that the rising tide, charter flights, better accommodations, and increased media attention are lifting everyone, but the players appear less focused on enjoying those benefits and more concerned about who actually controls the league. The From Any Place advertisement also demonstrates a major cultural shift by featuring Travis Scott and the Kelsey brothers. Nike is making the case that Sophie and Caitlin Clark are crossover stars. She reaches NFL fans. She connects with hip-hop audiences. She can attract people who have never watched even a quarter of WNBA basketball. That is the ultimate goal of modern marketing. The WNBA has spent years focusing much of its marketing effort on people who are already fans of the league. Sophie and Caitlin Clark are breaking through that barrier. Stephen A. Smith argues that because of her enormous public appeal, she has become almost untouchable. If WNBA players try to target her physically or play dirty against her next season, it will not be only basketball fans who react. The reaction will come from the general public as well. Now, let's look at how we reached this moment, because the timeline makes the outcome seem almost inevitable. After Caitlin Clark left Iowa, there was intense competition for her services. A Brewer wanted her. Despite Adidas having a successful advertisement, Nike realized they could not afford to lose her. They understood the importance of waiting and delaying the shoe's arrival until the spring of 2026. Soren was calculated. The strategy was to build tension. They wanted to extend the story around her rookie season, allow the drama to develop, and let the critics emerge so that when the shoe finally arrived, the release would feel like the climax of a larger story. Stephen A. claims Nike handled its WNBA strategy perfectly. They allowed the league to create the drama, and now Nike is using that attention to sell the products connected to it. Another issue is what some are calling the Sabrina effect. Caitlin Clark's debut is reportedly being prepared with 5 times the inventory, even though Sabrina Ionescu's sneaker launch was already successful. That is remarkable. Nike is clearly betting that this sneaker can become a permanent part of lifestyle fashion, much like Jordans or Dunks.